When screen printing on dark garments, an underbase and a flash is typically needed to make that print really stand out. In this instructional screen printing video, we're going to go over the best practices for creating great looking prints using a flash and underbase on dark garments. For this design, we're going to do something simple. 4 colors on a dark garment. On one of those colors, we're going to be using white, and that will be also used for our underbase. First, let's talk underbase. It's important that the base plate have a slight choke in it, which means it's slightly smaller than the overprint and is easier to register. I typically use a 0.5 inner choke, which gives me a 0.25 outer choke. This is a very small amount, but just enough to give me some play. If you have a slightly lower tension screen or you're just starting out, you may want to consider a slightly larger choke because it will make it easier. However, you will see ink on the little bit of the outside of your underbase. As far as the screens for this print, we're going to use a 110 mesh for our underbase to lay down a solid base with one pass, and then a 156 for our overprint, as we don't need as much ink on top of the base. We're going to be using all Plastisol inks on these carded cotton Fruit of the Loom 50/50 shirts. For our underbase, we're using our new low bleed white ink, and we'll be using our new fluorescent colors on top. For this print, all of our screens are set up with a 1/8 inch off contact, and we'll be using a 70 durometer squeegee. First, we line up the underbase screen using the center marks on the screen to the palette. Before we put the ink into the screen, it's important that we stir it up, which modulates it, gets the molecules moving a little bit in the ink, and allows it to be runnier and easier to print. Now we print the underbase on a misprint garment that needs to be similar in construction to our production garment. Then we flash. Now when the palette is cool, flashing takes a little bit longer, but the key is not to overflash the ink and leave it slightly tacky. Next, we align each of the overprints to the underbase looking through the screen. There are 2 ways to look at printing multiple colors on top of an underbase. First, especially if your colors touch, you may need to add more flashes. This makes your print look great because it gels the ink and avoids the ink transfer. However, it does take more time. It would be more optimal from a production standpoint to print wet on wet. To do this, we typically either choose the smallest or the lightest color to go first, and the largest or darkest to go last. The key is to avoid the ink from transferring to the back of the screen. If your colors don't touch, you can help by using a smaller squeegee to only hit that particular area of the design. Now that our colors are in registration, it's time to print. If you're going to be doing a longer production run, it is good to get your palettes a little warm before starting production. This will decrease the flash time needed and help the ink flow better. In production mode, we do all of the underbases first. It's important to get a smooth underbase. All of the ink should release out of the screen mesh and leave a smooth printing surface with no fibers sticking up. If you're struggling a little bit with fibrillation, you can do a print flash print, but first I would look at your off contact and squeegee pressure and angle to see what might work better for you. Next, I print the left side with a small squeegee, and then the right side with also a small squeegee, done wet on wet. I'm careful not to mat down the first color as I'm printing the second color. Now I flash. Then I print the middle with another small squeegee. As you can see, this goes much faster and still looks good, but you have more ink pickup and the print is not quite as nice. Something to keep in mind when going into production: don't overflash the underbase. If you leave the flash on top of the underbase for too long, you can run the risk of curing it. This stops the overprint from binding with the base and it will wash off. You want to ensure the underbase is still a little tacky. This typically means around 280 degrees or so on the surface, and I do find it helpful to use a temp gun. There you have it, a good looking bright print on a white underbase. Thanks a lot for watching, screen printers. We hope you found this instructional video helpful. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more awesome screen printing videos.